Well, hey there and welcome to The Bridge Online. If you are new with us, my name is Chris and I'm just honored that you're spending some time with us today. Whether you're watching us on Sunday morning or sometime later on throughout your week, we are thrilled that you have been with us today. And if you are watching on Sunday morning though, you will see a new here button on your screen. We'd love for you to click that. It's a way to reach out through the screen and let us know you're out there. We'd love to say hello back, and we'd even love to send you a free gift. It's our way to say thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Well, we have an amazing service planned for you, and it all starts right now with our band.
Bring the pain that you've been hiding. Bring your scars and bring your shame. Every failure, every secret. Bring your fear that things won't change. Bring your dreams and bring your worries. Highest highs, lowest lows. Every hope you pin your heart on. Every hurt you can't let it go. To the one whose name is healer, to the one who came to save, to the one whose love is stronger than the power of the grave. Come and raise a hallelujah to the God who overcomes. Lift your hands, lift your heart to the one. There is joy and sweet forgiveness where the fount of mercy flows. Child of heaven, wait no longer. Hear the call, come back home. To the one whose name is healer, to the one who came to save, to the one whose love is stronger than the power of the grave. Come and raise your hallelujah to the God who overcomes. Lift your hands, lift your heart to the one. He is grace, He is peace, He is light, He redeems. Lift your voice, lift your eyes, give your praise, give your life to the one whose name is healer, to the one who came to save, to the one whose love is stronger than the power of the grave. Come and raise a hallelujah to the God who overcomes. Lift your hands, lift your heart to the one. Come and lift your hands, lift your heart to the one. Come and lift your heart to the one. I am surrounded on every side, can't see the light of day, but I am persuaded beyond all hope you won't let go of me. I stake my claim on every word you say. You will not be late. I will sing through fire and thunder, 'cause you are on my side. I trust you with my life. I know my story, it isn't over. Even against all odds, you are a faithful God. You're a faithful God. that your promises will hold together, and I will dwell in the hope of your love forever. I am convinced that your promises will hold together, and I will dwell in your love, and I will sing through fire and thunder, 'cause you are on my side. I trust you with my life. I know my story, it isn't over, even against all odds. Oh, you are a faithful God. That's who you are. Oh, you are a faithful God. Oh, you're faithful God.
Amen. Well, if you've been tracking with us at all over the last few weeks, you know that we've been doing a series called Changing Lanes. And I know we say this a lot around here, but if you've missed any part of this series, maybe it's been 1 week, maybe you've missed them all, I highly encourage you later on to go to the on-demand section of our website and check it out. We've been talking all about who we are, the values of our church, the DNA of what makes the bridge the bridge. And it is so important that you at home know what we are all about. So I highly encourage you to check it out. Well, one of the things we have going on today before we get to Scott is actually in our 11 o'clock service in our Canada campus, we have some baptisms. And we can't bring it directly to you, but one thing we can do is share their stories with you. We have 3 amazing people who are going public with their faith. That's essentially what baptism is all about, is that you are declaring to the world, really to your friends, to your family, and to the world that you want to be a Christian, that you stand with Christ, that you are going public with the faith that you have within. So I love these Sundays. It's truly something we're celebrating. And I know that you're not here physically in your campus with us, but I hope that you'll be celebrating with them along at home and be praying for them as they take the next step in their faith journey. Here's their stories.
My name is Alex and I'm being baptized today. So I grew up in a semi-religious household. I was baptized as a child. It didn't really resonate with me when I went to church. It didn't feel right at the time. I was just kind of a little angry child. Moving up to adulthood, I was more accepting of it. I didn't really understand what it was yet, but I was still open to it. And then I had a medical emergency to the point where I was questioning everything. I was like, why am I here? Why am I getting this? What did I do to deserve all this? And I drive past the bridge all the time on the highway, and I was like, you know what, we're gonna pop in. And as soon as I did, I knew I made the right decision. When I first came in here, the first song came on and it just made me want to cry. Like, I was sat in the back and I just knew it switched that light on, and I was meant for me. This is what I was meant to be doing. So in a year from now, I really want to be more active in the church community. I want to be able to help more people. I want people to see that you can go from absolutely not believing in anything to getting baptized. I also want to be able to be more versed in the Bible. I want to be able to read it and understand the complexity of everything that's going on in there, because just reading it as a book it's an interesting read.
My name is John and I'm excited to be baptized today. I don't really remember my faith journey starting. I can only remember already being on it. My mom came from a Catholic background and she raised me and my 3 siblings Catholic, and we went to church every Sunday, went to Catholic school, and we went through all the sacraments. And even from a young age, I always had a rich prayer life, and my relationship with God was always front and center in my mind. So when I got to university, I was a philosophy major, and I got into the habit of questioning all of my beliefs. And as a result, I dropped my religious beliefs in university. However, I really missed them, so I would go around bothering Christians, trying to find out why they believed what they believed, because I would rather join them if I could, until I finally met a guy named Carson, who had a Master of Divinity, and he was good enough to meet with me once a week for dinner, answered all my questions, and finally persuaded me that there is very good evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. I want to be baptized to symbolize my dying with Christ and emerging to new life in Him. So the real question is why I haven't been baptized yet, because I'm 34 and I came to faith at 20, maybe 21. The reason I never got baptized before was that I sort of retroactively claimed the baptism of my infancy. I was at a service here at the Bridge and saw the opportunity to dedicate my young daughter to the Lord, which got me thinking about the topic of baptism again. And I thought, really, baptism is something that should be undertaken by a believer, and I wasn't a believer the first time, so that's why I want to do it now of my own accord. In the next year, I hope to live out my faith more than ever before, and live it out in relationship with others. I'm starting my own practice as a Christian psychotherapist, and so I hope to support other Christians with whatever struggles they might be facing, including the question of faith itself, as I once did.
Hi, I'm Eli. You probably know me or have seen me around this church, and I'm really excited to be baptized today, and my family is thrilled. So, my faith journey started when I was born, but it was only when I learned how to read that it kind of registered in my brain that this is a Lord, and I want to follow this Lord, and I want to believe in this for the rest of my life, and I want to take this person's guidance and be a believer. When I started to read, we had Bible verses, and we would read them all the time, and it stuck with me, and it was great to do, and I just loved reading the Bible verses with my family every day, and it made me realize that this is a great story, and I want to follow along to it, and I want to know how this story unfolded. For 5 years plus, I let my stage fright get in the way of my relationship with Jesus Christ, and I just realized that that's not a good reason to not get baptized, and I just want to get baptized, and it'll help me grow my relationship with Jesus Christ. I don't want my faith to just be kind of there, not really moving anywhere or not moving out of the house. I want to kind of bring my relationship with Jesus everywhere I go. My family is thrilled about me getting baptized today, and I'm thrilled too. I just love Jesus, and I want to get it out of the way, get my stage fright gone, and I think they're happy for me, I'm happy for myself, and I'm super glad.
Well, I'm so excited to be with you today, wherever you are and whenever this is for you. If you happen to be joining us live on Sunday morning right now, you should know that today, here at our Canada campus, today we have the joy of baptizing 3 people. I'm so excited for that and about that. I mean, what a perfect ending to this incredible series we've been in called Changing Lanes. Seeing these amazing people step into the waters of baptism to publicly declare their personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I mean, what will happen today, that is why we do what we do together. As a church, as we've said, our mission is to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus, and to see people like this take steps, well, that's what it's all about. Now, today isn't it for them, it's a step for them. A step in a lifelong journey of walking with Jesus, and that's why we do what we do and why we do it the way we do it, which is what this entire series has been all about. Throughout this series, we've been talking about where we're going together as a church and who we desire to be as a church as we go. Together, we've looked out the windshield to tomorrow, and my hope and prayer throughout this entire series is that by the end of it, you will carpool with us so that we can change lanes and get in that far left lane so we can go further, faster, and so that we can get to our tomorrow together. If you've missed any or all of this series, I'd encourage you to go to the on-demand section of our webpage, check out our YouTube channel, download our weekly podcast. There's lots of different options. However you do it, please take some time to take in this series. I think it's really going to help you understand where we're going as a church if you take in this series. But to catch you up quickly as we close out this series was born out of a question that I asked our staff and key leaders of our church the week before the pandemic caught our church and the whole world off guard and had us secluded in our homes. The question that I asked of that group, well, I've got to be honest, it led to hours of discussion. The question was simple, but the answer wasn't. The question I asked them was, what makes our church our church? What makes our church our church? It's an important question to ask and answer. And what I was really trying to find out, or the question that I was really asking was, what is our church's culture? That's what it was. What is our church's culture? What is our church's DNA? What is our organizational attitude? See, our mission is our destination. Our vision is what we believe we can see together. And our culture, that's who we are as we go. And every church has a culture. It may not be defined, but every church has one. So does every business. Every place you have or will ever work has a culture. Again, it may not be defined, but every business has a culture, and so does every family. Your family has a culture. Some families are quiet and reserved. Other families are loud and affectionate. Some families do their own thing, and other families do everything together. It's who we are. It's what we value together. Again, it's not always defined, but it's what defines who you are and what you do. It's not always tangible or said audibly, but the culture is visible and noticeable. It's who we are as a family, as an organization, as a church community. Yes, we're diverse and individual, that's true, but as a collective, as a community, we have a culture. Now, as we gathered in that room, I wanted to listen. I wanted to hear what people saw, what they heard, what they felt, so that we could identify together not what we want to be, but define who we are. I wanted us to define what is it over time that we have clearly shown that we value that makes up who we are. That session lasted a few hours, and it led to months of ongoing conversations and revisions. And in this series, we've shared the culmination of that process. We're talking about 6 values that we discovered we've always had as a church, though we hadn't defined them as a church. So far, we've talked about 5 of these values. So again, please take some time to take in this series. We really want you to understand who we are and what we value. That's what we've talked about so far in this series. And Today we're going to conclude this series and unpack value number 6. And I have to tell you, as excited as I am to do that, I have to be honest with you and admit that I'm still a little amazed that I have this opportunity at all. Not just to share this message or share this series with you, though that's true, but to be in this role at all. And to be able to serve you, our church, and the Lord in this way, I'm just amazed. To be the lead pastor of a church is something I was certain was never going to happen. And I was certain because that's what I was told. If this is your first time with us, or if you're fairly new to the Bridge, I shared back in June during our version of Hot Ones, where Jeremy from our staff team interviewed me over the hottest chicken wings ever. I think my stomach is still recovering. But I shared in that interview that during my 3rd year of college, one of my deans at the school I attended brought me into his office, and he told me, after observing me closely for 3 years, he told me, as someone whose job it is to prepare and guide students for vocational ministry, he told me that I should consider another career path. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. His exact words were, "You should consider another path for your career, Scott. A church will never hire someone like you and with your approach as a lead pastor." That's what he told me. And that sat with me throughout the rest of my 3rd year. And because of that, I wasn't as aggressive as I should have been to finish up my degree. One of the most important parts of a 3rd year student was to secure an internship at a church. And that's where you would get the opportunity for, on the ground, real life, like on the job training. But for me, because I was wrestling with my calling and trying to process what I had heard and trying to understand what do I do next, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I got late to the process, and because of that, I had to scramble at the end of the year to try to find a placement. While all my friends landed spots at high-profile churches, I didn't get such a placement. And within the first month of my internship, I actually thought that I proved my dean correct. I made a fortune teller out of him. I was given an opportunity by an incredible man named Doug Tatton. He was the pastor of a small church in rural town called Havelock, New Brunswick. Now, I'm from a small town to begin with, and this place made my home look like a booming metropolis. Like, it made my hometown look like Toronto or New York City. There was one intersection in the town, no street lights, and one corner store. I mean, you had to come out of the woods to hunt in this town, okay? Doug spent the first couple of weeks showing me the ropes and his process of doing things, and gradually he began offloading projects and responsibilities to me. My main responsibilities was working with students and children, but I got to do the important stuff when Doug went away on holidays. It was then that I got to preach and pay the bills, and I got to write the pastor's blurb in the weekly bulletin. I mean, I hit the big time, okay? Now, the paragraph I had to write was for a weekly segment in the bulletin called The Pastor's Heart. The pastor's heart. What do I say? What do I write? I don't know what I wrote. It clearly wasn't memorable because I can't remember what I wrote about. But what I do remember is that for fun, after I was done writing this little blurb, I printed it off and left it in an envelope on the desk of the young man who put the bulletin together. And I was thinking to myself, he's young, right? He's young. He should have a sense of humor. So on the top of the envelope, I wrote not the pastor's heart, I wrote the pastor's fart. I thought it was funny. He thought I was serious. I was mortified to open up the bulletin on Sunday morning to see there in Times New Roman, bold, italic font, the pastor's fart. Thank goodness email was barely a thing then, okay? Doug came back from holidays and he took back the pulpit and the pastor's heart. My dean was right. No church is ever going to hire someone like me, and if that didn't confirm it, what happened a few weeks later would. See, one of my responsibilities for my internship was to create and execute a kids camp for the church. If only Lisa, as I think about it, if only Lisa and those of you that make our Bridge Kids Camp happen here were there with me then. I mean, what we did then wasn't anything like what we do here these days, but we still had a lot of fun. We went with a jungle theme, and the camp was called King of the Jungle. It was awesome. The basement of the church, we had it decorated like it had never been decorated before. We even had a gorilla costume, which different leaders wore each day to throw off the other kids, the older kids who thought they knew who was in the costume. So we messed them up. It was awesome. And the reason we had the gorilla costume, the kid who brought the most friends each day got to give Gary the gorilla his bananas. I mean, it was a hit. Speaking of hit, during that week, I was working late in the night on a paper that I had to write for school. All the lights in the church were off except the light on my computer screen. I was zoned in. I was trying to make this deadline, and then my spidey sense went off. Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever felt like there was someone in the room with you? Have you ever felt that? You know that feeling? Well, I felt it. And just as I turned around to see who it was, this huge gorilla jumped out of the darkness at me and... Now, some people scream when they're scared. Some people run. I swing, okay? This gorilla jumped up and roared at me, and I jumped up out of my chair, and I punched that gorilla right in the face and sent him to the ground for the 10 count. It took a minute for it to hit me what had happened and who I had hit. It was Doug, my boss. He put the costume on to have fun with me, and instead he got the treats, right? And he was laying there. And as he started to come to, I started to pack my things. I mean, talk about going out with a bang. My career was over before it even started. Maybe my dean was right. Maybe I should have listened and changed course. In that moment, I was literally in the dark. The punch I threw hit me, and I thought, I'm a failure. What do I do now? What am I going to do? I was literally in tears, and then I heard laughter. I turned around, and there was the gorilla. Doug pulled off the mask, and he wasn't angry, he wasn't yelling, he was laughing. He said, that was amazing. I mean, he was crying, but they were tears of laughter, and he came over to me, and he hugged me. He said, I love working with you. Clearly, he was a tad concussed, right? I love working with you. Now, I can laugh about that story now, and it's a fun story to tell, but in that moment, it was no joke. I was a wreck. I was lost. The next day, Doug and I went for a walk, and I told him that I was done. I thought it over, and clearly I was trying too hard, or I wasn't trying hard enough. Either way, it was clear ministry wasn't for me. Maybe I should have listened to the advice that I was given. Either way, I decided it was time for me to go in a different direction, even though I didn't know what direction that was in. I knew that ministry wasn't for me. It wasn't my calling. Doug listened, and then he told me, Scott, life is hard. Not just ministry, life. This is what he said to me. Life will throw things at you that hit a lot harder than you do. I mean, you hit like a 4-year-old girl. That's what he said to me. I mean, he was laughing. And then he said, Scott, if you can't find a way to laugh in life, if you don't or can't have fun in life, you won't make it in life. It will chew you up and it will spit you out. That's what he told me. And my guess is whether you've punched your boss in the face or just felt like it, my guess is you know exactly what Doug was talking about. You know that life has a way of knocking you down, doesn't it? Life has a way of knocking you down, and the older we get, it seems like the more hits we seem to take. Isn't that true? Isn't it true that life doesn't play fair? The hits don't all come from one direction, and we don't always see the hits coming, but we feel the toll they take on us day after day after day. I mean, it's exhausting, it's deflating, it can be depressing. Life is a fight, and it's a fight that keeps us up at night, staring at the ceiling. It's a fight that has you saying things like, I can't take it anymore. The hits keep coming. I can't win. Will this ever end? See, as much as we'd like, we can't isolate the hits and deal with them one at a time, can we? I mean, that would at least make the fight more fair or more manageable. But just when you're dealing with this hit over here in this area or arena of your life, you get blindsided by another hit over here, and pretty soon you're just going into each day on edge, just looking around, turtling, just waiting for what's coming next, right? Life is a fight, and it affects every arena of our lives. We get hit relationally, financially, professionally, physically, mentally, emotionally. We get to the point where our thoughts betray us. We get to the point where we second guess everything and everyone, including ourselves. I was so focused on how I was failing and where I was missing it that I was coming to a conclusion that spoke against who I was, and it had me challenging and questioning my calling. My biggest problem then, and one of my biggest problems today, is I often take myself too seriously, and many times I don't take God seriously enough. Are you that way? Are you that way? Do you take yourself too seriously? For me, if and when I take myself too seriously, I look to Scott for all the answers. I look to myself for the answers. What do I think? How do I feel? What do I want? When I take myself too seriously, I look to Scott for all the answers, and I quickly lose focus, and I get swallowed up by negativity really, really quickly. For me, problems and stress arise when I look to myself and inside myself for purpose and value. I stumble when I take myself too seriously. But if I take God seriously, it's then that I look to Him for the answers of life. God, why do I exist? Why am I here? What do you say? What do you want? Don't stop at Scott. Don't take Scott too seriously. I look to God. God, what do you have to say? And see, that's what maturing in faith and being in a growing relationship with Jesus Christ looks like. And that's what we want for you. When everything is about me, and I feel or can see myself spiraling, it's then that I realize that I'm out of step with God. And the disconnect in that relationship impacts all my other relationships, and it impacts everything I do or don't do. The Apostle Paul referred to this as life in the flesh or life in the spirit. Life in the flesh versus life in the spirit. Paul explains that there's actually fruit, an extension of a connection to or a relationship with Jesus Christ. After describing what living in our flesh and human desires looks like, Paul, a pioneer of the early church, writing to a group of believers in a place called Galatia, he says the Holy Spirit produces this kind of fruit in our lives. And he says it's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. He says it's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. These words are visible manifestations of an internal personal connection to Jesus Christ. When we are demonstrating these words, when they become more than words, but descriptors of the life that we're living, this is the evidence or fruit of a connection to or relationship with Jesus. God being God could have decided that the prevailing attitude of His children could be one of boredom, solemnness, and seriousness, but God didn't say that. Throughout His Word, God has told us that one of the earmarks of a Christian, a follower of Jesus, a sign that we know Jesus Christ is outrageous, contagious joy. Joy. And a byproduct of joy is fun. It's not just good to have fun and to laugh. It's a byproduct of our relationship with Jesus. I experience life in the raw every day being in the ministry. Every day. Every day I deal with tough stuff in people's lives. And to combat that, I need to have fun. I need to laugh. And so do you. Life is tough. One of the most difficult things I do, in fact, the most difficult thing I do in my job is public speaking. If you read a stress level report, number 1 is experiencing the death of a loved one. Number 2, speaking in public. And that's what I do. And I wish I could tell you I never get nervous. I wish I could tell you that I just walk up here and hit record and I just start talking. I wish that were true, but it's not. I have to bust my rear to stand here each and every weekend. I can't put it off. I can't cancel the appointment. I can't say, I don't feel like going to church today, Lisa. Like, I can't call in sick. I've got to be here with my A game. I'm sharing out of God's Word, and that brings me a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. When Wednesday rolls around, I feel this pressure on my shoulders, this weight. I'm like, whoa, I gotta share out of God's Word this week. It's got to be biblical. Hopefully it's compelling, applicable to a seminary professor or someone who's clueless about Christianity. I mean, it's a pretty stressful thing. And people say things like this to me all the time, like, hey man, have a good weekend. I'm like, I haven't had a good weekend in a long, long time. Okay, I mean, I've had good weeks, but not really good weekends. Those that know me will tell you I take what I do seriously, but I know that if I take myself too seriously, very quickly it becomes about me, not him, and certainly not about you. I have to walk and live in the Spirit, and as I do, I live with joy as a fruit of that, and I've learned that if I'm not having fun and if I'm not laughing, that's an alarm or red flag that something is off with me. That's an alarm that I'm focusing too much on me and what is or isn't happening around me. If I'm not walking in relationship with Jesus, I'm just living out with information about Jesus. Let me say that again. If I'm not walking in relationship with Jesus, I'm just living with information about Jesus, and there is no life, let alone joy, in that. If you aren't sure what you believe about God, Jesus, the Bible, that's okay. I'm so glad you're here, and I want you to know that we as a church don't want to just give you more information about Jesus. We want to lead you to a point where you enter a relationship with Him, and we want to help you and see you grow in that relationship with Him. And as you do, as Paul said, you will bear fruit, and joy is a fruit of that relationship with Jesus, and having fun and laughing in life is a byproduct of that. I've got to have fun. You have to have fun. We have to have fun and learn to laugh in life. I know it sounds shallow and superficial, but there's real depth to it if we unpack it. What happens when we have fun? Do you know? What happens when we laugh? Studies show that when we have fun and when we laugh, our T cells get all ramped up, our endorphins explode, and our entire muscular system relaxes. We actually relax when we laugh and have fun. That's what happens. That's what health experts say are the health benefits of fun and laughter. And I want to laugh at the research because Solomon, said to be the wisest man who ever lived, Solomon in his God-given wisdom tells me that a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength. Joy is a fruit of the Spirit, and it's critical to life and your health. Fun and laughter are byproducts of joy, and they are an indicator of my connection to and relationship with Jesus. Laughter really is the best medicine, and fun is God's tranquilizer, and that's why as a church we value and have unapologetic fun. We are unapologetic about having fun. Having not grown up in the church, one of the things that kept me from church, and certainly what kept me from going into ministry for a long, long time, was the fact that so many pastors and so many churches I saw were so serious and boring and monotonous, and I thought to myself, I don't want any of that, right? And I know too many people, maybe you do too, who grew up in church, and when they reached adulthood, they walked away. And a big part of it was that church didn't connect anymore. That the older they got, they realized there's no life to this. There's no fun in this. See, I don't believe that we can build irresistible bridges, which is what we do. I don't believe we can do that without having fun. So whether it's eating spicy wings for a sermon, playing some games, watching funny videos, iced coffee bars, block parties, playing songs like Life is a Highway to open a service, turning the church into Whoville this Christmas, stay tuned for that, whatever it is, whether it's telling funny stories from our pasts, we value fun. We are unapologetic about having fun because without fun, we can't do what we've set out to do together. And as we lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus, joy is a fruit of that relationship, and fun and laughter is a byproduct of that. So we have fun, and we are unapologetic about it. As with all of our values, in order for us to demonstrate this value collectively as a church, it needs to be embraced by each of us individually. And the best way for you to embrace this value in your life is to ask yourself a question. Ask yourself, do my attitudes and actions reflect the joy found in a relationship with Jesus Christ? Ask yourself that question. If you would call yourself a Christian, a follower of Jesus, ask yourself, do my attitudes and actions reflect the joy found in a relationship with Jesus? So you can have read the Bible front to back, you can know the scriptures inside and out, but if your life doesn't reflect the fruit of a relationship with Jesus, it's just knowledge. It's nothing more than another morality or another worldview you live with rather than a vibrant relationship that defines your life and the demeanor in which you live it out. Ask yourself, do my attitudes, do my actions reflect the joy found in a relationship with Jesus Christ? Bridge Kids' motto is make it fun, make it true, and make it stick. Fun informs everything they do, and they start there. Why? Because parents, when we pick up our kids, you know this, parents, right? When we pick our kids up from something, what's the first question we ask? Did you have fun? That's one of the reasons Bridge Kids starts there, but it's also for another reason, and this reason is true for everyone, not just kids. We value fun because fun provides me common ground to build upon when the need comes for deeper sharing. Fun provides me common ground to build upon when the need or the time comes for deeper sharing. Fun breaks down barriers, doesn't it? Fun disarms assumptions and expectations. Fun gives me common ground that I need when the time comes for deeper sharing. I learned that from Doug all those years ago. I learned that I need to have fun for my own sake, but I also need to have it for the sake of others because it gives me common ground with people that I would not have without it. Because of that conversation that I had with Doug that day, I stuck out my internship, and I'm glad I did because I experienced something later that summer that confirmed my calling and shaped my approach to my life today. One night that summer, I opened up a message asking 4 volunteers to come forward. I had them paired in groups of 2 and told them that the first team to eat a cup of chocolate pudding would win $50, a red one, okay? The catch was one person had to feed the pudding to the other. And we got them situated, and then we counted them down, and just before I said go, I stopped it again. I said, actually, the real catch is the person eating the pudding has to wear this leg of pantyhose over their head. Okay, you got to try this at home. It's hilarious. Watching someone eat pudding through pantyhose, I mean, it's a ride. It's hilarious. Everyone in the room was laughing hysterically. We were having a great time. And after that game, I gathered them together and I shared how that game is what life is like. How the reality of sin in our lives has distorted the way things were intended to be. We weren't meant to eat that way, and we weren't meant to live this way. I shared who Jesus was and what he came to do. That Jesus came to restore us into right relationship with God. That night, a 16-year-old named Justin was there. A friend of his had invited him for the first time. Now, he seemed distant when I met him at the very beginning of the night, but after the game, as I started to talk, I could see him processing. He was leaning in. And then at the end of the night, amazingly, Justin prayed and committed his life to Jesus Christ. We went out that week and we drank a chocolate milk at the corner store at the intersection in town. We talked about life and what he was into, and then I asked him about the decision that he'd made a few nights before. He told me that he had never been to church in his life. He hadn't been because he thought it was lame. But his friend told him that it wasn't. And in fact, his friend told him that it was actually cool and that he'd have fun if he went, so he did. He decided to check it out, and because he did, he decided to put his faith in Jesus Christ. He said that he never heard someone talk about life the way I did that night, and he thanked me. He thanked me for doing what I do. It was an amazing conversation. I left that conversation feel like maybe my dean was wrong. Maybe God really did place a calling on my life. I never spoke to Justin again. Shortly after that, Justin was driving a 4-wheeler with some friends. He tried to cross at a blind hill, and he didn't make it. I sat with his friends at the funeral. I visited his family, and I prayed with them. I listened, cried, questioned. In the midst of all that, there was a peace, though. I knew that Justin was with the Lord, and I knew that God had placed me in Havelock for that summer for a reason, for Justin. And I knew that I would spend the rest of my life sharing who Jesus is and who and what he desires to be in people's lives with as many Justins as I can. As we continue on as a church, we will have fun because we need it and because it gives us the common ground we need. We won't apologize for having fun. In fact, we're going to prioritize it. We'll have fun because it reflects the joy found in a relationship with Jesus, and it's that relationship that we want you and those you know and love to have. The joy of the Lord is our strength, and we want you to have that strength for today and the hope that comes with it for tomorrow. So, we're going to continue on together as a church, and as it's been throughout this entire series, my hope and prayer is that you will carpool with us so that we can change lanes and get in that far left lane, go further, faster, and get to our tomorrow together. And we will prioritize and continue to prioritize all our values because it is who we are as we go together. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this church, and I can't wait to see what God does in and through us as we go together, and we're going to have a lot of fun along the way. Speaking of fun, next week we're going to be kicking off a brand new series, and I hope that you'll be here for that. It's something we've never done before. We're going to play with some toys and have a lot of fun as we talk about life. Until then, from the bottom of my heart, much love and God bless.
We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging sea. My God, he holds the victory. Yeah. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. Oh, oh, oh. We shout out your praise. We sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause he hung upon that cross, then he rose up from that grave. My God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. 'Cause we were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by his grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. 'Cause we were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by his grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord.
Well, what a service. I love this church. I love what we do. I love that week after week we get to play an incredible role in building bridges between unchurched people and Jesus. That's what we're all about. That is what we do week after week. For those of you who participate in that, for those of you who are praying for us, for those of you who give so generously financially week after week, thank you. The stories like the ones you've heard today, the stories like Scott has shared really throughout this series happen because of you. You might not always see how your financial donation contributes to the story, or how your time volunteering or even your prayer contributes to their story, but it does. I assure you it does. Because of you and your support of this place, you help make this place possible. You help make these stories possible, and you help change people's eternities. I hope you understand the weight of that. I hope you get the role that you are playing in that. So I thank you for all those who contribute financially, for those who've been praying for us, for those of you who are volunteering with us. Thank you. You help make this happen. The Bridge has a bright future ahead. We are on an amazing road trip together. And I thank you that you are in the car with us. I thank you that you are on the drive with us. We have an amazing future ahead. Until next time, God bless and have a great week.